What is going on, YouTube? It's your boy B Cash back here with another video. Today I have my draft grades for day 1, 2, and a little bit of day 3 since it's going on right now at the time I record the video. So I may give updates every once in a while on what's happening. But yeah. Draft grades, and let's get into it with the first grade. Actually, before we get into the picks, I'm telling you right now, this video is going to be really long. There's going to be timestamps in the description. Also in the description will be a link to my Twitter. Follow me at SlimyAir4. The Packers getting a solid F for their draft. It seems like the last two drafts in the first round, and I forgot who they drafted in the second round last year, but they're lighting their picks on fire. Rashawn Gary, who didn't play last year at all, really. Jordan Love traded up to get a quarterback. You don't want to help Rodgers out. Rodgers didn't have his best season. He was coming off probably the worst season of his career. And you don't help him out. You draft the quarterback instead. And then the next round, you draft A.J. Dillon, which makes no sense because you have Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams already. So it's like, what purpose does A.J. Dillon serve? Just a goal line back, and you drafted him in the second round. Not a great draft for the Packers. They didn't get that much value out of their picks. They didn't get really anyone who's going to play on day one or play significant snaps on day one. Because then they drafted, like, I don't know. Who did they draft at their next pick? They drafted a tight end from Cincinnati. I don't want to pronounce his name because I'm going to butcher it. But Deguara? Yeah. I mean, I guess he'd probably start because they don't have anyone else to play the position, but like it's still not a great pick. This is the Seattle Seahawks getting a D-. I thought about giving him an F as well, but I like the Damian Lewis pick, so it kind of bumped their overall grade up to a D-, but they have 2 Fs and a C+, which kind of balances it out. So they picked Darrell Taylor and Jordan Brooks. The Jordan Brooks pick is weird because they really could have traded back and probably got him. Like, I don't think they got the guy. Like, if I'm putting myself in their shoes, he's probably the best scheme fit that was available. So with that being said, I guess that was their guy. So I don't think it makes sense to pick him there still because they don't have. Like, you could trade back, add draft capital, and still get your guy because he's just not valued that highly by the rest of the league. So if you traded back, still picked up Jordan Brooks, I'd be more open to raising this pick because he's not a bad player. He's just not good in coverage, but in the Seahawks scheme, he could be solid in coverage because they don't ask their linebackers to do anything crazy in coverage. But he's definitely a good run blocker. I mean, run stopper. But I think you could have traded back, though. I think it was a bad way of going about this. Darrell Taylor, I think that was an overvalue. You probably could have traded back for him. Damian Lewis is the only good pick, in my opinion, for the value. And then the player you got. So, yeah. And we had the Chargers. They had the 6th overall pick. They left the draft with Justin Herbert and Kenneth Murray because they traded up to get Kenneth Murray. With Patrick Queen on the board. And they traded their 3rd and 4th round picks to get somewhat of a raw project linebacker. And it just doesn't make sense because he's really not that good, though. They traded up. They traded most of their draft to get Kenneth Murray on top of getting Justin Herbert, who's not the best quarterback. And I'm not 100% sold on the fact that he'll beat out Tyrod Taylor. He may get the start because he's a rookie, but I doubt he beats out Tyrod Taylor. Justin Herbert is far from a finished product, and I think they could have traded back too, but like it's just I don't know how. I'm not in the front office, so I don't know how many offers are being sent at these teams for these picks, but like there's some other stuff later on that I'll get into that like trading back and stuff because like I feel like it's not a great process when you. And then they traded up for Kenneth Murray. So, like, okay. That doesn't make too much sense, but sure. Whatever. Next up, we have the Tennessee Titans. They have a D+ overall. They made a really good pick with Kristen Fulton, though. In, like, the 3rd round, I think. But Other than that, Isaiah Wilson in the first round was overdraft. But like I said, Kristen Fulton was a great pick. But the other two picks that they made weren't they? Oh, then they drafted a running back. They drafted Darrington Evans. Okay, whatever. So they drafted a bad tackle in round one, a running back, and Kristen Fulton. Kristen Fulton's the saving grace of this draft because that pick was so good. If it wasn't for him, they probably would have got an F overall grade because the other two picks weren't good. So yeah, they got one of the biggest steals of the draft, but other than that, the draft fucking sucked. Jalen Johnson is the only thing I have to say for the Bears. It's the saving grace of the draft, even though I don't think that Jalen Johnson is all that great, but it was still a good pick nonetheless, especially to make up for the Kollman blunder. They have legit 10 tight ends on the roster now. They had 9 before they drafted Kollman. They could almost field an entire roster of tight ends. That shouldn't happen. I don't know why they picked Kollman. I gave that pick a straight F. I should have given it an F minus because it doesn't make sense in the slightest. With the roster you have, your current roster, you have 9 tight ends. So you're with your first pick. You don't have a first rounder because they drafted Khalil Mack basically. You don't have a first round pick. With your first pick, you draft probably your most deep position. Now, granted, none of them are really good, but in this not so good tight end class, what's the difference between like Cole Kmet and like Alex Troutman or like Harrison Bryant or like Bryson Hopkins? I mean, I really don't like. None of the tight ends are good, so like, why take a shot on one early? Just me. We need to strap in for a long ride. This video could get pretty long. The Saints, I gave it a C minus because their first round pick doesn't make too much sense. Like you just drafted Eric McCoy the year prior, so going into the draft and then drafting another center doesn't really make too much sense. Like if I were them, I'd move Eric McCoy or Cesar Ruiz to guard because Andrus Pete's garbage, but it doesn't look like the Saints have plans to do that because they've already locked up Andrus Pete for like 4 years, $50 million, and he's god awful. They added Zach Bond, who I think is a quality ad. I think he's a good player. I don't know where he'll fit in this Vikings Saints defense. He's a versatile player, an edge / linebacker. Even though we didn't drop into coverage that often, I think he'd probably be an edge, but he's a little bit undersized. I think he has good pass rush moves, but like he's like 230, so I don't know how that's gonna work out in the NFL. Then they added Alex Troutman, who's one of the better tight ends in the class. They added him at pick 105, which is about where I'd start taking these tight ends because I don't think any of them are that good. Yeah. It's a solid C minus because like I don't think they did anything to help them this year, which is what this team needs with Drew Brees. But sure, we'll see how it works out because I don't know if Cesar Ruiz will even start this year. Maybe I don't know. Maybe Larry Warford's expendable now. Maybe they trade him. I'm not sure. Next up is the Texans. They get a C minus. This draft was kind of like uneventful compared to what it could have been, especially with Kristen Fulton on the board. You add Blacklock, and then you add. I think they got another edge rusher. I think they got not another edge rusher. I think they got an edge rusher with their next pick. But like, you had a chance to bolster your secondary, which is one of the worst in the league, and you add a below-average edge rusher and a raw pass rusher. I don't think it was the best use of their picks. Kristen Fulton was on the board when they picked. Kristen Fulton. Their secondary is garbage. And they didn't help it. So, okay. That's the Texans for you. Next up is the Steelers. I gave them a C. They picked Chase Claypool with their first pick. I gave that a C minus, and Highsmith got a C plus. It's a solid draft. Chase Claypool. I don't know where he fits in. I don't think he's better than Deontay Johnson, James Washington, or Juju. So he's wide receiver 4 at best. Maybe tight end. I don't know. He has some versatility. Alex Highsmith is a good edge rusher. He'll probably be rotated in. I doubt that he. I mean, he's probably better than Bud Dupree, maybe. Bud Dupree's not good. So getting another edge rusher is not a bad idea, especially when Bud Dupree is your second option to TJ Watt. It's not a bad draft. I think it maybe could have been a bit better. Yeah. Now we have the Pats. I gave them a C as well. They added Kyle Duggar, who I like. They also added, I think they added Kyle Duggar after Antoine Winfield, who I have ranked above Kyle Duggar on my big board. But Duggar is more versatile, has more size. He could play in the box. And so Winfield's only 5'9". This isn't about Winfield. They traded up to get Uchi. Then they traded up to get 2 tight ends, which really stunted their grade. That didn't really make sense to me. Like, this tight end class is already not that good. You trade up. Like, I didn't watch too much tape on the tight ends. I watched some of the top ones, and I wasn't impressed. So, that's that. But, they traded up for 2 tight ends, and that really shot their grade down. Because I like the pick of Uchi. I like Duggar, and I think Anthony Jennings would be a good scheme fit for them. Maybe not for anyone else. But, yeah. I mean, the 2 tight end picks are kind of head scratchers, and they still don't have a quarterback. So I wonder how they're gonna play this. I think that he's trying to build this defense to try to win games through defense. Is that gonna work? I don't know. Maybe not, because that offense is so shitty. You have Julian Edelman, no one else. You drafted 2 tight ends, Brian Hoyer at QB. You're not going to score a lot of points, so you need to be the best defense in the league by far. Again. Well, they weren't by far the best defense last year. In the beginning of the season they were, but, 49ers started to catch up. Steelers. But it's going to be an interesting season to see Belichick without Brady or Belichick without an average quarterback. No quarterback on their roster is good. They have 3 shitty QBs, 2, Hoyer and Stidham. And we have the Rams, who I gave a C. Cam Akers. I like Cam Akers a lot, but at the same time, he's also a running back. And you cut Todd Gurley just to draft a running back. That's I don't know if it's like Todd Gurley, but in a zone running scheme, with a good running scheme, and okay, fuck the running scheme for right now. When you have a bad offensive line, I don't think the running back there really matters. But if you have a better offensive line, if you have a good offensive line and a good running scheme, you don't really need to draft the running back. If they drafted linemen instead of running backs, their running game would be better than drafting Cam Akers. But they also got Van Jefferson, who I like. I like the Terrell Lewis and Terrell Burgess picks. Overall, the draft isn't that bad. It's Akers' pick is bringing it down, and Van Jefferson pick brings it down because I think Denzel Mims was on the board, and I have him higher on the board. But he's more of a route technician. He's more of a crisp route runner, so sure. Van Jefferson may be the guy that they want. But to replace that speed, really, though, I think they should have got Denzel Mims to replace the speed of Brandon Cooks, and also add another element to the offense. Add two more elements to the offense that you didn't have before. A jump ball guy and a deep threat. Well, you had a deep threat before, but add deep threat and the contested catch guy at the same time. Terrell Lewis, who I like a lot. I think he could be good. Terrell Burgess is an instinctive safety. He's really good. But the Akers pick just brings it down, though, because there's no offensive line, so Cam Akers may not even be good. And I like Cam Akers. I want him to be great. Now we have the Raiders, who I gave a C grade for the draft. They got Henry Ruggs. They had a lot of picks. They had Henry Ruggs, Damon Arnett, Lynn Bowden, Brian Edwards, and Tanner Muse. And they also got Amick Robertson at the time of recording this video, who I like a lot. Amick Robinson's one of those just tough man corners. He's undersized. That's why he fell. Probably a nickel corner. So now you're having LaMarcus Joyner, Abram, who I liked a lot last year, coming back from injury. Carl Joseph, I think he's still on the team. I'm not 100% sure about that. But Amick Robertson now. That cornerback group still sucks. Oh, you have Damon Arnett, who's not a bad player. I think it was a lot of an overdraft. He's a good player, but he's old. I don't know if he'll get much better than he is right now. He's like 24. So, okay. Henry Ruggs, who I have few questions about. He's not the best route runner. He's not the best deep threat, despite being so fast. He ran 4.27, but he's unbelievably unproductive deep and unproductive in general. People want to get on Jalen Reagor for only having 600 yards last season, but Henry Ruggs finished the season with 750 yards. He wasn't that productive himself. And if he's the first receiver off the board, if people think he's this dangerous deep threat weapon, why are his numbers so bad? Why is he the only receiver out of Jerry Jeudy, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, and himself to not crack 800 yards yet? Even Jalen Waddle had more yards than Henry Ruggs last season. Not this year, but like last season, even Jalen Waddle had almost 900. Like Jalen Waddle had almost 900 yards. Like if Henry Ruggs is this dangerous weapon, why is he basically the last option on his team? That's kind of questionable. But yeah. Lynn Bowden, who's versatile, could play running back or receiver. I don't know. He's not a bad receiver, but I think he'd be a better running back. But like behind a good offensive line, you don't really need to be like that good. Like running back doesn't take that much to do. Like you take a physical beating. Like it's a hard position to play. The payoff is kind of low for getting a good one, because the difference between them and like a Marlon Mack, more of an average running back, isn't that high in terms of production. But yeah, that's the Raiders draft. Yeah, this video is definitely going to be long as hell. But Javon Kinlaw to the 49ers at 14. I gave the 49ers a C+. It wasn't for this pick. It was the combination of trading up for Brandon Ayuk, who, like, if you're going to trade up for a receiver that's not a great route runner, but a beast after the catch, why not trade up for the one that's a lot better at it with Laviska Shenault? But they don't do that. And they leave the draft with Javon Kinlaw and Brandon Ayuk. You trade DeForest Buckner to draft a guy that's similar to DeForest Buckner, which doesn't really make sense that high. CeeDee Lamb was on the board. Receiver is a better position to get there. CeeDee Lamb is on the board, and you could still probably stand pat at 31 and get Brandon Ayuk. You walk up the draft with Ayuk and CeeDee Lamb, you're probably doing backflips if you're the 49ers. But instead you come up with Kinlaw and Ayuk, which, I mean, Kinlaw's not a bad player. I think Kinlaw could be an exceptional pass rusher from the interior. He's a freak athlete, strong. But I don't like the combo of the picks that they just made. So it's a C+. It's not that bad. Like, it's teetering between B-, maybe. But, like, it's not that bad of a pick. So, yeah. And we have the Bills with the C+, and I heard that Matt Breida just got traded to the Dolphins. Solid move for both sides. I don't know how good Matt Breida is going to be outside of that great run scheme. I think he is a good player, but they had way too many running backs. They had like 4, so I mean, they were able to get something out of one of them. But The Bills C plus. AJ Epineza. He. I mean, like the pick of him was a really good pick. Like getting AJ Epineza was a really good pick. It was great value. They didn't have to trade up. A player that fits their scheme well fell right into their laps in the second round. But then they got Zach Moss, which is not the way to do it. He's very similar to Devin Singletary in the way that like they're not really a complement to each other. They're more like it's not like Singletary and then you have like some fast running back to complement the Singletary. You have Singletary and someone who ran like a 4.68. So with that being said, you have one of the slowest running back cores in the league. Like there's no change of pace. Like Zach Moss comes in, does the same thing Singletary can do for the most part. And it's like it doesn't make too much sense. Like if you're gonna add somebody, maybe add like more of an athletic type running back. But you add the slower running back. There's no change. There's no compliment there. But yeah, that's why it's a C plus. AJ Epineza was a spectacular pick, but Zach Moss was not so spectacular. So it kind of balanced it out to a C plus. Now we're swaying over to the B's with the Indianapolis Colts, who picked Michael Pittman Jr. with their first pick in the draft. Second rounder, they traded for DeForest Buckner, which like I opposed to, cause like I feel like you should have stayed there and drafted a wideout to help. I think that would help win. I think that would make you a better team now than DeForest Buckner, but that's just me. Because if you look at that team up and down, say that a run on receivers happened, and then you're stuck with someone that's not so well. You were gonna be stuck with a good player, but maybe not a great player. Like if you stayed at 13, maybe you could have had like the way the draft fell today. If you stayed at 13, you would have had a chance at Jeudy. Not today, but the way the draft fell the other day. If you stayed at 13, you would have ended up with Jeudy or CeeDee Lamb, one or the other. But instead, you traded for DeForest Buckner. But, okay. In this draft, they also got Jonathan Taylor, which made no fucking sense at all. I give that an F. Marlon Mack. What was wrong with Marlon Mack? You have Nyheim Hines, and now Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor's probably better than Marlon Mack, but, like, I don't know if we're gonna see that much of a difference in production, so maybe the pick won't be worth it. Like he's probably gonna, if he gets enough carries, he's probably gonna get 1,000 yards. But like we're not gonna see too much of a difference in production between Marlon Mack and Jonathan Taylor. But it is what it is, though. And then they picked Julian Blackmon, which is a pretty good pick. And they got a B- overall because I like the other two picks, but not really Jonathan Taylor. Next up, we have the Falcons with a B-. That may be surprising the most, but I don't hate the AJ Terrell pick because I think AJ Terrell is a good player. It's a bit of a reach. I don't think I would have picked him at 16, maybe like 26 or even like 23 at the most. But they also walked out with Marlon Davidson and Matt Hennessy in the first 3 rounds. Matt Hennessy is a good center, solid pass blocker, and then Marlon Davidson is he's a versatile player. I don't know if he's versatile. I don't know. I don't think he's that good as an edge rusher, actually. Let me not say he's versatile. But he played interior, played edge rusher. He's probably better as an interior rusher. He's probably one of the better pure pass rushing D tackles if you want to play him there in the draft class. So I think there were some good pickups here. But yeah, AJ Terrell, you want to say he got cooked in the LSU game. It's not like he got burnt, like beat. The one time he really got beat, it was more of an offensive pass interference than like him just getting beat. But he was getting beat at the catch point. He was on Jamar Chase the whole time, but if you really can't make the play at the end of the catch, all your coverage before doesn't really matter, but that's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes. So, yeah. Next up is the Philadelphia Eagles, who I gave a B for their draft, mainly because I love the Jalen Reagor pick. People think that they're the biggest losers. People think they had the worst draft. People think they had these terrible picks. Eagles fans are pissed off. Jalen Reagor was the best receiver on the board by somewhat of a wide margin. I think he's a lot better than Justin Jefferson, and I think he's a much better scheme fit. He could be a succession plan to Deshaun Jackson while also adding speed with Deshaun Jackson at the same time. Then you have a dangerous, speedy receiving core. Well, I don't know how fast Jackson's going to be. He's had so many injuries, he may not even be that fast anymore. Then you're adding Jalen Reagor. People want to talk about his production. Like I said earlier when I was talking about the Raiders, Henry Ruggs isn't that productive either, and Jalen Rager's slightly more productive on the deep. Not slightly, he's more productive on the deep stuff than Henry Ruggs is. So the production questions are kind of weird, and like you have to take those two situations in isolation and like look at them in deep detail. But Jalen Hurts pick isn't disgustingly bad. They need a like Carson Wentz has missed games in 2 of his 4 seasons. Missed a lot of games. He missed 5 games a couple seasons ago where they got knocked out of the playoffs. He missed games when they won the Super Bowl. He missed 3 games in the regular season and all the playoffs. But I think Jalen Hurts could be a solid backup, and we could be looking back at that pick in a few years like Jalen Hurts made plays for the team when Carson Wentz went down. Or we could be looking at that pick like in a few years like we could be looking at that pick in a few years like what a bad pick. He hasn't touched the field yet. And yeah, but they also in this draft picked up, what did they pick up? They got Reagor, they got Hurts, and they also got Davion Taylor, who's an athletic linebacker from Colorado. Kind of a project, but he could be a good player eventually. And he's going to have to start immediately, though. But I don't think the draft was as bad as people made it out to be. And I think they got better. Next up, we have Clyde Edwards-Helarine. Oh, well, not Clyde Edwards-Helarine. We have the Chiefs with a B, though. You have to Clyde Edwards-Helarine in round 1. I don't like that pick. Even though Clyde Edwards-Helarine is my running back number 1, I still don't like that pick. I don't think Clyde Edwards-Helaire makes your team that much better. Well, makes the Chiefs that much better. Just Damian Williams is just fine. Like, Kristen Fulton's on the board. Trayvon Diggs. There's a ton of good corners on the board, but just the position I think you really need to address if you're the Chiefs. Not running back. Like, you don't look at that team and say, we need a... Well, okay, you probably do look at that team and say you need a running back, but I don't think it's their biggest need. Like, their corners held up well enough for Mahomes to win the game for him. I don't think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is the best pick, but it's a B because of what they did later. Willie Gay Jr., who I had as my linebacker 3. I think he's more of a modern linebacker. Great in coverage, has good ball skills for a linebacker. It was a pretty good pick for the value, especially after someone like Jordan Brooks and Kenneth Murray. You got the best linebacker out of all those 3. And then you have Lucas Niang, which I think is a good pick for where they got him. If they got him any higher, I probably wouldn't have rated it as well. But overall, it was a solid draft. But their first round pick, I don't know if it makes them that much better. Because if they give Clyde Edwards-Helaire the same amount of carries as Damian Williams, I don't know if Clyde Edwards-Helaire makes your team that much better than Damian Williams did. But that's just me, though. He is my running back 1. Great pass catcher. Great after the catch. He can make guys miss. He's almost impossible to bring down. But yeah. B. It's just a solid B for the Chiefs. Now we have the Dolphins with a B. outside of Tua, I don't think they got the most out of really any of their picks. Austin Jackson, he's not that good. He's more of a project tackle. Noah Egbenogany, he has terrible ball skills, but he's pretty good in coverage for the most part. Uh, Robert Hunt, I like Robert Hunt. I don't think I would have picked him here. Maybe. Raekwon Davis was overdrafted. Brandon Jones was kind of overdrafted as well. Solomon Kenley, I like the Jason Strawbridge and Curtis Weaver picks a lot, but like their other two first round picks and their second round picks, I don't think they made the most out of them. Their draft could have been way better than it was. Like outside of Tua, I don't think they made the most out of their picks. Now we have the Ravens with the B plus. I almost said the Packers. I don't know why. They have a B plus because the Patrick Queen pick was really, really good. For like where they got him and who they got him after. Then they made the J.K. Dobbins pick, which was somewhat questionable. He's not the greatest scheme fit, and they have 3 running backs that are good already. They have Ingram, Gus Edwards, Justice Hill. Now you have J.K. Dobbins. That pick didn't really make sense from a schematic standpoint and from like a team building standpoint. Then they got Justin Matabuke, who I like a lot. He's my D tackle number 3 after Kinlaw and Brown. It's not too much separation after the Kinlaw and Brown. It's like a cluster of Matabuke, Gallimore, Blaylock. But that pick in itself in like the 3rd round was pretty good. Then they got Devin Duvernay, which is a really good pick, in my opinion. Malik Harrison, who's a good cover linebacker. Tyree Phillips, like an interior offensive lineman. I think they should have got Natane Muti, who I think is a lot better. But the injury concerns are an issue. So all in all, it was a pretty good draft. They got better. And they got better. They definitely got better. We're gonna have to see how it plays out next year. But yeah. Next up we have the Panthers with the B plus. I was teetering between C's and all this, but as this draft is unfolding, because this video is taking forever to record. There's picks coming out now. Jeremy Chin. Oh, that was yesterday. But Troy Pride, Kenny Robinson, which is a great pick. They didn't really make the most of their first round pick, in my opinion. You have a chance to reshape your team with a new direction. You could go with this innovative defense to start your team off, but instead they go with Derek Brown, which is the safer option. I'm more confident that Derek Brown will be a good run stopper in the NFL. Maybe doesn't have the highest potential as a pass rusher, because he's big, didn't test well athletically. He just doesn't have the athletic profile of an elite interior pass rusher. They got Yaturgos Matos in the 2nd round, which is good value there. That's where I would have taken him. I don't think he was a first round talent. Jeremy Chin, athletic safety, great player. Troy Pride, Kenny Robinson. They made the most out of their picks outside of their first round. If they got Isaiah Simmons, I probably would have gave it a B plus. I mean, an A plus. But they went with the safer option. You have a chance to reinvent your defense with this innovative, with this versatile freak monster that rarely comes around. Derek Brown's come around quite often in the draft. I think Dexter Lawrence is a similar player to Derek Brown. Those are just a year apart. You could get a similar player to Derek Brown next year. You probably won't find a similar player to Isaiah Simmons in the next couple of years. That's how special Isaiah Simmons is in terms of an athlete and what he can do on the field. But you passed up on it. And instead, you got Derek Brown. It is what it is, though. Other than that, they had a really great draft. Now we have the Bucks with a B plus. I probably would have gave it a B minus if they didn't trade up one spot, which seemed pretty pointless. Well, hold on. Hey, let me stop. Actually, Actually, it says B plus. It should be a B minus because now that we know that Joe Staley was going to retire, they were actually going to draft the tackle with Tristan Wirfs. So trading up one slot wasn't a bad move. Now that you think about now that I have all the information now, that should be an A minus or even an A. Man, no, that should be an A minus. Because now that we know that Joe Staley was going to retire, they have Trent Williams now. But now that we know he was going to retire, they were looking for a tackle. At the time of the pick, it made no fucking sense. At the time of the trade, it made no sense at all to me. Because the Ravens, not the Ravens, because the Buccaneers traded up one slot, and it seemed weird. But it was to leapfrog the 49ers now, because the 49ers were looking for a tackle to replace Joe Staley. So now that I know that, that should be an A minus. They also picked up Antoine Winfield, Keyshawn Vaughn. The team doesn't have a good running back, so I mean it's not the worst move. But I don't think that he's even better than Ronald Jones, so it is what it is there. But and they also added Tyler Johnson late in the draft. That's a really good pick. That's some good value. I think they knocked the draft out the park. That should be an A minus instead of a B plus because of the fact that now that I know they were looking for. Now that I know the 49ers were looking for a tackle to replace Joe Staley. Oh, man. My Washington Redskins, we finished the draft. Well, we still have picks left. But, like, as of right now, we, you may be questioning why it's a B+, and I have to give I have my reasons. Like, I would have went the trade down. Like, yeah, people say we got the best player in the draft. Sure. But I still would have wanted to trade down. We don't have a second round pick. I don't think this makes us that much better. We still have probably the worst unit in terms of secondary in the entirety of the league. But we have Chase Young, Antonio Gibson, Sadiq Charles, Antonio Gandy-Golden, Khalid Hudson, and Keith Ishmael. I like the Gandy-Golden, Sadiq Charles, and Khalid Hudson picks. I obviously like Chase Young, but like I wish we would have traded back. I wish we would have like heated up the rumors heavier that we were going to draft Tua so we can get the Dolphins to bite and give us multiple first rounders. Instead, we didn't have it strong. It wasn't strong enough, so we didn't get enough trade offers. So we ended up with one Chase Young instead of like three good players. So we have like, it is what it is though. Like, sure, Chase Young's gonna be great. He is gonna be great. But if we don't address other holes that are much bigger and much more important, we're never gonna be good. Like, he could be a great pass rusher. We have Ronald Darby, who was terrible last year, Fabian Moreau, and then Kendall Fuller, but he's a slot corner, though. So on the outside, we're trotting out Ronald Darby and Fabian Moreau, and we still haven't drafted a corner yet. We drafted a versatile safety linebacker in Khalid Hudson, who I like. Gandy-Golden, that helps the receiving core out, but I don't really think he's better than Kelvin Harmon. I think Kelvin Harmon's a better route runner. Gandy-Golden's probably better in terms of like contested catches, but like Kelvin Harmon could do that too. Kelvin Harmon's better than Gandy-Golden. I mean, you got Kelvin Harmon in like the 6th round last year. And we got Golden like the 4th. I mean, like the 5th as well, but like, sure. We got him in the 4th, but I don't know if this draft made us that much better. We traded Trent Williams finally. Too late now. We only got a 5th for him. And a 3rd next year, which could be pretty valuable. But yeah. Overall, I don't think this draft made us a better overall team. Did the defensive line get better? Yeah. Did the defense as a whole get better? Kinda. A little bit. Very minuscule difference. Because we can't cover anyone. We can't. Like, our defense is still gonna suck next year. We have an awful secondary. But hey, hopefully we can work this out. It doesn't look like we will. It looks like we may be floating in mediocrity for the next couple of years, but it is what it is, though. Chase Young, welcome to DC. Or, you're from here. Then we have the Jaguars with an A minus. And this is more of an A minus because of where the team is. Like, I'm not that big of a fan of CJ Henderson. He has great movement skills, but he has pretty bad tape this year, so it is what it is. But they had a good draft. They drafted Kayvon Chason, maybe a little higher than I would have drafted him, but they also got Laviska Shenault, which was a great pick. Devon Hamilton, which was, you got a nose tackle? Okay. Ben Bartch. I like that Ben Bartch pick. Ben Bartch was a great pass protector. He went to St. John's, though, but, like, at least he was dominant at St. John's, though. It's not like he was getting beat occasionally. Like, he allowed 4 pressures and, like, 300 pass blocking snaps. So he was a beast, and then he had a good showing at the Senior Bowl on top of that. So maybe there is something to Ben Bartch. He's a smaller school prospect, and like I think tackle and quarterback are the two positions that have the hardest time transitioning from pro to college. Like, especially when you're Ben Bartch, you're coming from St. John's. That's a huge talent difference from St. John's edge rushers to NFL pass rushers. So, yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what Bartch can do. But yeah. Next up, we have the Jets with an A minus. Starting it all off with Mekhi Becton. I'm not that high on Mekhi Becton though. I'm really not. We haven't seen him have to pass protect against good edge rushers, for one, and we haven't seen him pass protect in true pass sets that often. He had 73 this past season, and he wasn't particularly that good in them. We're chasing upside that may not be there. Mekhi Becton could very well come to the league next year and not be really good at all. Or he could come to the league and prove me wrong. Go ahead, go off then. But they also left this draft with Denzel Mims, which I think was an amazing pick for the place where they got him. That was a steal and a half for Denzel Mims. Then they also got Ashton Davis, which was also a pretty big slide for him, and a great value for that pick. But then they followed it up with Jabari Zuniga. I don't think that was the best pick you could have got. Jabari Zuniga wasn't my top edge rusher available. It was what is his name? Curtis Weaver. Jabari Zuniga is not that good. I think Julian Alquara was on the board when they picked him too. Yeah, I don't think they made the most of that pick, but oh well. Bryce Hall. They got Bryce Hall in the 5th. That's a steal too, kinda. I'm not that high on Bryce Hall, but I thought he would go higher, and I think he should go higher. I don't have a first round grade on him. More like second, third round. Well, maybe, yeah, second round, third round. I feel like he's a very scheme dependent corner though. Like he's more of a zone corner than a man corner. I don't think he's athletic enough to be a boundary corner in the NFL. But a great pick by the Jets nonetheless, and they had a good draft. We'll see what Mekhi Becton does. Ends with an A minus. They got Jeffrey Okudah, which was, this draft was pretty chalk when it started off, but they got Jeffrey Okudah, nice pick by them. Then they follow it up by having a bit of a mental lapse and picking a running back, but they were able to make up for that by picking Julian Alquara, who was one of my best players available for a while. Then Jonah Jackson, a great pass protecting inside lineman, and I think they definitely got a lot better in this draft than some other teams that had some high picks. Cough, cough, Washington Redskins. But, yeah. It could have been better, like, because you're still not that good in terms of secondary. Like, you drafted Jeff Okudah to be a Darius Slay replacement instead of complimenting Darius Slay. Because, like, you needed corners before. And then you got rid of Slay to get Desmond Trufant, who's not really all that good anymore. Now you have to pair him with Okudah. And Trufant, really, who's been playing in more of a cover 3 zone scheme over in Atlanta with Dan Quinn. Now he's coming to a heavy man scheme. I don't know how that's going to work out at all. But, sure. The Lions. Now we have the Vikings with an A-. They got Justin Jefferson. I don't think that's that great of a pick. Like, Shenault was on the board. Mims was on the board. If they had Reagor, if Reagor was on the board, they should have took him. It's just like, I don't think Justin Jefferson is anything special. Like, he's not the crispest route runner. He doesn't have the greatest hands ever. He's pretty good contested catch ability. He was 12 for 13. I don't know how much that would attribute to, like, precision accuracy on those contested catches, but I think that'd help out a little bit. But the big reason why is that they were able to trade back, and, well, the Packers didn't. The Packers did the picks in the trash, but the main reason this grade is pretty this high is because of the fact that they were able to trade back and get Jeff Gladney. Then they got Ezra Cleveland, a good tackle. He went off the board before Josh Jones, though. Josh Jones was on the board for way longer than I expected him to be, and way longer than he should have been. They also got Cameron Dantzler, who fits that system a lot. Length, like he's a Zimmer corner. He's long, fast. Like the combine 40 time isn't indicative of that, but the pro day 40 time was 4.2. So that means he probably runs somewhere in between like 4.4. Because they said that he had the highest body fat percentage, but he was really light. So he was just eating to get his weight up, and then he went out there and ran a 4.6. So he's probably closer to 4.4, 4.5 range. If he was running at the combine at regular weight. But this overall was a great draft. And, yeah, I like all their picks, basically. And we have the Bengals with an A-. A-. I mean, the Joe Burrow pick was a no-brainer, A+. If he turns out to hit his upside, which would be basically what he just was in college, then, you have a great QB with Joe Burrow. But, in the second round, the top of the second, I thought they would pick Josh Jones to try to protect Joe Burrow a little bit better. They'd go with T. Higgins, who I'm not that high on. I don't think he's that good at separating against the higher tier corners. Like, yeah. But, like, Denzel Mims is on the board, who I think is a better big body receiver. If that's what you're looking for. And he can stretch the field a lot better. So, I don't think it was the best pick there. Then you got Logan Wilson, linebacker from Wyoming, which I didn't give that high of a grade because I have guys like Hakeem Davis-Gaither above him on my big board, but they ended up getting Davis Gaither anyway. So it was a pretty successful draft, and they got what could be their franchise QB for the future, or what should be their franchise QB for the future, and Joe Burrow. So great draft by the Bengals. Browns with an A-. Jedrick Wells from Alabama. They picked him 10th overall. He was my tackle number 2, so it was a good pick by them. I feel like they killed the draft. They came out of the first round with Jedrick Wells. Then their second time they pick, they end up getting Grant Delpit. Then they get Jordan Elliott, who's a solid pass rushing interior. Interior pass rusher, I mean. Solid interior pass rusher. And I feel like they're one of the biggest winners of the draft. And they definitely got better. They've been big winners of the draft the last couple of years, but haven't had a winning season. But yeah. Now we're getting into the A+. The Denver Broncos. They had an amazing draft. And I saw they also got Nateem Uti, guard. He was my number 1 guard. He's solid pass protector, a mauler in the run game. They had a great draft. They killed the draft. Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, Micah Ojemudia, Lloyd Cushenberry, McTelvin Ajim, uh, and then it's Mutsi. They had a really good draft, and they're gonna be a fun team to watch. And they could be really good if Drew Lock is a good quarterback. They're finding out if he's a good quarterback the quick way. They're giving him all the weapons, and we're gonna see if he can succeed. We're gonna see if he can flourish. If he doesn't, he's not our guy. So with that being said, the Broncos have put themselves in a great spot for the future. Because if you're not good this year, you have all these weapons, and you could pick a quarterback next year like Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields, depending on how bad you are. I don't think this team could be too bad. They have a solid defense. Now they have a good defense and a good offense. We're just gonna have to see if the quarterback is good. He came in, he won a couple games when he was in there, and we're gonna have to see if he's that guy though. Now we have the New York Giants. They picked Andrew Thomas with number 4. That was unexpected for them to do. I thought they would try to go for Mekhi Becton, which would be a mistake. But they go with Andrew Thomas. My tackle number 1. He was almost like the consensus tackle number 1 throughout most of the pre-draft process. And then somehow it just changed. Like, it was before the combine. People were saying people were floating Mekhi Becton's name around a lot. But, it's not like Andrew Thomas did anything wrong. Andrew Thomas never tapered off. He never did anything bad. He just stayed consistently good, which is what you want in a starting tackle. And they got it, Andrew Thomas. Then, in the second round, they got Xavier McKinney in the second round, a versatile safety. So now they have 2 versatile safeties, but Jabril Peppers and Xavier McKinney. I think Xavier McKinney is going to be more of the free safety role because I think that he's better there than Jabril Peppers. Then they got Darnay Holmes. Oh, wait, well, no. That's not the order they got him in, but they got Darnay Holmes in the 4th or 5th round. They got Matt Parrott. The Giants had an amazing draft. Definitely an A+ draft. They had one of the best drafts in the league, obviously, as you can see by my grade. But, yeah, they're I think they should have drafted a receiver, but in terms of, the players they got, they were really good. I think they should have drafted a receiver somewhere, but, they didn't. But what they got, other than receiver, was really good, though. Cardinals with an A+ here. They got Isaiah Simmons. Now, the one gripe I have about this pick is that they have multiple versatile linebackers, which really isn't a bad thing. It's gonna be interesting to see how they work that out. But Hassan Reddick isn't that good though, so you could afford not to have him on the field though, so it doesn't hurt. Isaiah Simmons though, freak athlete. You don't see Isaiah Simmons as every day. You really don't. Like I said, that's why the Panthers should have picked Isaiah Simmons. You just don't see Isaiah Simmons as. Now, maybe you could argue that the Cardinals should have picked tackle, but this is a rare player. So was Tristan Wirfs, though. But I think with the air raid offense, you think you can scheme around line, having a bad offensive line, and to a degree, it is true. You don't need to have the greatest offensive line when you low A dot, spread the field out, get it out quick on short hitches and just a whole bunch of short stuff. But because that's what they did last year. Their offensive line isn't good though. It's also not terrible. It's not the worst offensive line in the league. It's just not good. Because Kyler Murray roams himself into a ton of pressure on his own. So it's not as bad as the sacks allowed look. Because Kyler Murray doesn't have the best pocket awareness. That was my biggest gripe with him last year. By the way, I did change my tune on Kyler Murray. I watched the college tape again, and the one thing I realized is I probably overvalued how much his height mattered to him being successful in the NFL. That's what I did. That's why I undervalued him. He's great. They also added DeAndre Hopkins, which was a great pick. Well, not a great pick, but with what would have been their second round pick, they got DeAndre Hopkins with it. They also got Josh Jones in like the third round, which is probably the steal of the draft. Um, that was such an amazing pick because I don't know why he slid. Maybe there's something we don't know. Maybe the NFL just thinks he's raw, but he's raw and he barely got beat. Opposed to some other raw people that got abused when they played better talent. Josh Jones was one of the best tackles at the Senior Bowl, on top of already having pretty good tape. His feet need some work, but his hands and the way he uses them are elite already. Last but not least, to finish off this hour-long extravaganza, the Dallas Cowboys got one of my favorite players in the draft in CeeDee Lamb. Picked up Trayvon Diggs. I mean, the Trayvon Diggs pick is the one where it's like, I think that they should have picked Christian Fulton because I think he's better by a pretty wide margin. Like, just to put this into perspective, Christian Fulton's my CB2 and Trayvon Diggs is my CB5 because he's under Gladney and Henderson. But I also added Neville Gallimore. Was kind of raw, but he's still a good pass rusher. He was one of the better pass rushers. He's super athletic. But he doesn't have too much awareness. Like, he gets off the line of scrimmage with no plan, and sometimes that's the death of him. But the pick of the draft here for them, CeeDee Lamb. This makes their receiving core that much more dangerous. They already had Amari Cooper. They already had Michael Gallup. They add CeeDee Lamb on top of that. On top of that elite receiving core they already had, they add CeeDee Lamb. Now this is kind of like what I said with the Broncos. This is proving Dak's worth. If Dak doesn't succeed, if Dak doesn't bring them to a playoff season, with Kellen Moore, a much better, a really good play caller, matter of fact, these receivers, the offensive line you have. I mean, if you want to throw Zeke in there, sure. Zeke, I guess. Whatever. If you don't succeed with this, you're not worth the contract you want. You're really not. But I doubt that he won't live up to this. Yeah. But, this is the end of the video, though. Follow my Twitter at SlimyAir4. And I tweet a bit for the draft. But, yeah.